Hello, viewers, ladies, gentlemen. My name is Okachuku Okorie. You're welcome to today's edition of my Liberation Gospel. And the title of today's edition is Juxtaposing Demands for Referendum by Biafrans and the Scottish example, or Scotland, however you put it. Juxtaposing it, putting it side by side. How does it look? Because a lot of people have been criticizing the demands for referendum by people of the former Biafra Republic, and they've been calling them all sorts of names. But when you look at international laws, when you look at examples from existing countries and nations, you will see that all these things have a verifiable legal framework, and within the international law, the United Nations have a United Nations Charter for self-realization. Have authorities or have framework for individuals or groups expressing their opinion and asserting their right to self-determination. Now, let us look closely. United Nations, the UK. Many of us have been hearing the UK, especially those from our part of the world. The United Kingdom comprises of four nations. Four nations of England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. Fortunately, I'm in the Republic of Ireland, and we're not dealing that now, but Ireland, due to its historical problems and crisis, conflicts in the past, the northern part of Ireland is under the United Kingdom. So I am in the southern part of Ireland, and southern part of Ireland formed a republic, but that is for another day. We can still learn lessons from developments in this part of the world. Now I'm going to Scotland. Scotland, from time immemorial, have been agitating for independence from an earlier onset. The Round Kingdoms, they have their own accounts of migrations according to their own authoritative or majority of Scottish account of origin. They take their origin from Greek. They said they were the settlement from a Greek prince and a daughter of Pharaoh from Egypt, and that was how Scotland was founded. And far from that, England or English, who have been in charge of Scotland, have a different account of that. But all this is boxed to nationalism. So, from in time immemorial, Scotland has been wanting to be free, be independent on their own. All these things give rise to many attempts to free themselves from English domination, until the first attempt for devolution of powers. And when I say devolution of powers, to have sort of semi-independent, to be able to control much of their internal affairs. When the first rise for devolution referendum came up, it geared up until 1979. Before that 1979, when Margaret Thatcher came to power, they were the Labour government. The Labour government, just like during the Nigerian Civil War, during the Biafran War, it was a Labour government that gave a lot of arms to Nigeria to suppress the rise of the Biafra Republic. So the first attempt at getting power, devolution powers in Scotland ended in 1979 when Margaret Thatcher came in. Margaret Thatcher had to use them. Margaret Thatcher deceived them, the early pro-Scottish independence agitators in the parliament. But before then, the first time it gained momentum in modern times was in, I think, 1967 when Scottish National Party gained a seat in the House of Commons. Mind you, there's a House of Commons which is in Westminster in London that make overriding laws for these four nations that are in the United Kingdom, despite the fact that Scotland have its parliament now, but we'll come to that. So Scotland now, until 1979, they were deceived by conservatives led by Margaret Thatcher into Austin removing the Labour government of that day with the carrot of they are going to be helped towards getting devolution of powers for themselves. And finally, they lost out in 1979 when Margaret Thatcher came on and refused to grant them that devolution of powers. So their next attempt was in a second time whereby they made enormous attempts, but the first attempt now gave them that momentum. Gradually they realigned and started coming back again. And finally, there was this Scotland Act of 1998, in which finally the Scottish Parliament was given, and there was direct election to fill up the Scottish Parliament, and the Scottish Parliament have authority over domestic affairs, whereas overriding general affairs and foreign policy, the rights rest with the House of Commons. So why am I stating this history? Because the agitation for Scottish independence have been a long time, and I've said about the first attempt, which was scuttled by the conservatives led by Margaret Thatcher, and the second attempt, which finally gave rise with the Scotland Act of 1998 or so, which created the Scottish Parliament and their control over domestic policy. So finally, the momentum got on, and they kept pushing until a young man came on, Alex Salmond, who became the leader of the Scottish National Party, because the Scottish National Party still have MPs in the House of Commons. It's just like, today in Nigeria, whereby we have the ABGA and the UPP having Biafran agenda, running Biafran agenda and taking it to the National Assembly in Abuja. Unfortunately, some of us wouldn't understand that. They would think it's abomination or so. But in modern world, these things happen. It's all about debate. Nobody's talking about war. This is why I keep saying the issue about the quest for a Republic of Biafra is not a quest for conflict. It's not an agitation for war. You can easily get what you want through engaging in meaningful debates looking at international laws and getting to exploit, local legal frameworks, and that is what the present generation is doing in Nigeria. So unfortunately, people are carrying propaganda that is all about war, conflict. This and no, nobody's talking about war, but we are talking about our fundamental rights to self-determination. So coming to Scotland now, finally, there was a referendum in Scotland in 2014 on the 18th September. After much of this agitation, a referendum was fixed on 18th September 2014. And it was all about debate. I remember the former Prime Minister of United Kingdom, Gordon Brown. Gordon Brown was leading the campaign for no. There was a campaign for yes and no. And yes to Scotland independence and no to Scotland independence. But unfortunately I was here in Ireland and I saw many Scottish friends. I talked to them about the opportunities, both on the no and yes side. But the yes campaign team got 44.7% of the vote, whereas the yes got 44.7%. The yes to Scotland independence, whereas the no won with 55.3% of the total votes cast. And what was the turnout? The turnout was 84.5% of Scottish voters. And mind you, it was the vote was only for Scottish voters. I was having a debate with a friend who is from Benin. He was talking about that in the referendum that the entire Nigeria is going to vote. So I told him, look, it's not possible. Somebody in Bauchi or Bono will not vote in matter that doesn't affect him or her. No, because all these things are laid down in the law. This is where you need to sit down. We need to sit down and discuss about this and, draft a legal framework that can guide this. Nobody's talking about bullying each other. Nobody's talking about beating each other. Nobody's talking about killing each other. But it's all about discussion. We want progress. We want progress not only for ourselves, but for our neighbors. Even at the emergence of a Republic of Biafra, it must have neighbors. It must have trade partners. It must be among a committee of nations. So it is not going to be a rogue nation. It's going to be a nation that will be highly depended on by the international community, highly reliable by, reliable when it comes to principles of governance, development, and it must have the mechanisms of a true and viable nation. So, at the end of the referendum, the yes campaign lost. And you know what? The first minister and the leader of the Scottish National Party, because the Scottish National Party had majority in the Scotland Parliament, and that was why they could fix up that the referendum for Scottish people, but they lost. And Alex Salmond, who was in charge of the Gordon constituency, resigned. He resigned, just like in the modern world where things happen positively, just for failing the referendum, just for not being able to win the referendum, he resigned as the leader of Scottish National Party. The way what's his name, David Cameron, resigned after the Brexit vote. So when he resigned, when Alex Salmond resigned, his deputy, a woman, Nicola Sturgeon, took up the new position as the first minister of Scotland and leader of Scottish National Party. Unfortunately, in the last election, which just happened, the party lost seats. But Nicola and her party hasn't rested on their oars. In fact, they are moving for a second referendum. They are calling for a second referendum. I thought that was in this year, March this year. So somehow March 13, she made a statement of upcoming second referendum that they are pushing towards autumn of 2018 to the spring of 2019. That they are moving for a second referendum, of which the current Prime Minister, Theresa May, her aide, responded that it's not going to be possible. But they are having debate about it, and they have a ground in the sense that a Brexit vote just happened. A Brexit vote just happened, and in the Brexit vote, Scotland, the Brexit vote just happened last year, I think 23rd June 2016 or so, in which Great Britain voted itself out of the European Union. And watchers of international politics, current affairs, you've been following the negotiation is just about to happen. It's it's going to be a long negotiation, and it's going to be very tough. It's going to be tough for Great Britain, not only Great Britain, for the European Union. But I thought it's going to be tougher for Great Britain, because many of them who voted to move Great Britain out of the EU, they are now regretting it. They don't. They didn't know the implications of the vote. Hence, they are beginning to regret that course. But unfortunately for them, Scotland is hatching in because the Scottish people voted more to be in the EU. So it's giving them that local standing to demand for a second referendum. A second referendum in the sense that during that Brexit vote, 62% of Scottish voted to remain in the EU. 62% of Scottish voters voted to remain in the European Union. They don't want to follow Great Britain out of the European Union. So this is giving them that local standing to call. That was why Nicola Sturgeon earlier this year in March called for legal framework put in place for Scotland to have the referendum. You see, all these things are going normally. It's all about understanding. Scotland want to be in charge of their affairs. They already have a parliament. They made demands. See that Westminster president having everything normally like lettered people. like literates, and they have their local political parties. They have the in Scotland. They have the Scotland National Party. They have the Scotland Green Party. They have the Scotland Socialist Party and the Solidarity Party. Also, these parties support Scottish or Scotland independence. So you can imagine, for instance, in Nigeria, APGA, UPP supporting Biafran independence. This is all about understanding. This are, when we talk about democracy, this is the maturity of democracy. You have a right to air your view and your opinion. You have a right of assembly. You have a right to do things in a way that is civilized, in a way that is not going to hurt anyone. Nobody's calling for war. Nobody's calling for conflict. It is only when the mentality is very poor and porous, and like people will call Nigeria a zoo. That is where, when you demand for your fundamental human rights, somebody is saying you are beating the drums of war. I mean, many Brits, as in many English people, are not happy with Scotland over the issue about independence. But they haven't declared war on them. They haven't said they are going to kill them. They haven't said that these people are this or calling them sort of names. You can even imagine Andy Murray. Andy Murray, the former Wimbledon champion. He's Scottish. And during the time for, during the last referendum vote, Andy Murray campaigned for independence for his homeland, Scotland. So you see, most of our people even travel abroad, travel worldwide, even our so-called leaders. But when it comes to laws, when it comes to policies that can bring progress, that can empower people, you see them shine away for that. This is why when you go to the north, when you go to the core north, you see that they have the highest beggars. Their leaders are the greatest looters of the economy. The oil wells in the country are controlled by them. 98% of oil wells in Nigeria are controlled by the core north. You see that everyone depends on the emir to eat. They'll just go to the emirs. In the emir's place, you have the mosque. They have this. Everybody will go and pray and wait to eat, do their ablution, and wait for the next information from the emir. And the emir and the leaders refuses to educate their people, so that they will use this. They will turn their people to almajiris. And look at today, many of them are turned to suicide bombers. You see, this is why we don't share the same values. We don't share the same values. So, sorry, brothers and sisters, viewers, you see that Scotland is going for a second referendum, and we are calling for a first referendum. And some people are shouting hue and cry, and shouting that I mean, conflict, war. Nobody's talking about war. Nobody is talking about war. This is something that is recognized in international law, and there's a United Nations Charter for recognizing self-realization. So when we talk about referendum, there are nations that have had that. it is a very peaceful way to resolving issues. I mean, we can sit down and iron out a legal framework on how it's going to be realized. And you that is a politician, from injecting it into for referendum is not a call for war. It is not a call for conflict. It is not a call to intimidate or to stampede or to deny some other people their rights. I want you to take a closer look at the journey to Scottish referendum. They are calling for a second referendum, which they are going to get, of course, because the Brexit vote empowers them to a second referendum, because they voted, majority of them voted, over 60% of them voted during the last Brexit vote. I mean, Brexit referendum last year in the United Kingdom. They voted to be in the European Union. They don't want to exit the European Union with the rest of the United Kingdom. So this is their second referendum in the space of how many years? They are even calling it from the autumn of 2008, that is next year, to the spring of 2019, and they've already had their first referendum 2014. That was 18th September, in which they lost by 44.7% to yes to 55.3% to no, and it caused the resignation from office as First Minister of Scotland by Alex Salmond, in which his deputy Nicola Sturgeon took over, and currently she's still the first Minister of Scotland. She is the leader of the Scotland National Party. So we are demanding a referendum for Biafran. It is not a crime. It is within the ambience of international law, and it is not infringing on anybody's right. So some of you who are calling on, who are saying these Biafrans are talking about war and conflict, you are just carrying propaganda. And like I said, many parties in Scotland are even supporting independence of the Scottish nation, and this is enshrined in their party ideology and charter. So parties talking about voting for them, especially ABGA, the likes of the current governor. What is his stand on the issue of Biafra? I mean, ABGA or UPP, owned by Chokwas Okorie, or I mean founded by Chokwas Okorie, can enshrine this in their party constitution. The People's Democratic Party, the PDP, which is the main opposition party, can as well enshrine the instrument of referendum in their party manifesto. These are democratic instrument, and this can really enhance Nigeria's democracy. Enshrine it in your constitution, and everything will go normal. Because if things are done normally, there will be peace and there will be progress. So let us not stop. Let us not be beating about the bush, and do things that can bring progress and advancement, not only to our democracy, but to our way of life. I think I'm going to stop today for this, but let's just opposing demands for referendum by Biafrans and the Scotland example. I hope you understood me well. I want you to spread this video. Let all those who are carrying propaganda against this stop it. Nobody's talking about conflict. Nobody's talking about war. We are just trying to advance the cause of humanity, the cause of man. We want to progress. We want to do things peacefully and amicably. We want everybody to benefit. No loss of life, no bloodshed. The greatest force in life is unity of humanity. When we are united for a purpose, it's easily achieved. Thank you, and God bless you for listening to me. My name is Okachukwu Okori from Owerri.